Finally, let's look at a word problem. An amusement park ride takes riders to the top of a tower and drops them at speeds reaching 80 feet per second. A function that models this ride is h equals negative 16t squared minus 64t plus 60, where h is the height in feet and t is the time in seconds. About how many seconds does it take for riders to drop from 60 feet to 0 feet? So remember, h stands for the height that the drop car is at any given time. Since we're trying to figure out how long it's going to take for the drop car to reach the ground, we're going to set h equal to 0, which works very nice for solving quadratic equations because we want it set equal to 0 anyway. So we're going to have 0 equals negative 16t squared minus 64t plus 60. Now that may or may not be factorable. Sometimes with large numbers, when there's lots of numbers like this, sometimes it's just best to go right into the quadratic formula and not spend time to factor it. So that's what we're going to do in this case. We're going to just jump right into the quadratic formula. A little bit of a spoiler alert, it's not factorable, so not into binomial pairs anyway. So we'll go ahead and go into the quadratic formula. So a is going to be negative 16. B is going to be equal to negative 64, and C is going to equal 60. So our answer for T this time, we're solving for time, is going to be negative 64, so that's 64 plus or minus the square root of negative 64 squared. I'm using the quadratic formula again. Go ahead and rewind if you need to see what the quadratic formula is. Minus 4 times the a value is negative 16, and the c value is 60, all over 2 times the a value, which is negative 16. So that's going to be 64 plus or minus. We need to take the negative 64 and square it. And 64 squared equals 4,096. So it's under the square root sign symbol. So 4,096. And then negative 4 times 16 times 60, 3,840. All over 2 times negative 16, which is negative 32. We need to add what's underneath the square root symbol. So 64 plus or minus. We add 4,096 to 3,840, and that gives us, underneath the square root symbol, 7,936, all over negative 32. Now, this is a word problem, and on word problems, I allow you to go to decimal estimates. So you don't have to worry about trying to break down the square root of 7,936. Go ahead and go to a calculator and get a decimal estimate of the square root of 7,936. That's going to be about equal to 89.08. So 64 plus or minus 89.08 over negative 32. Well, since I allowed you to get a decimal estimate on this one, that means I don't have any square roots left over. And if I don't have any square roots left over, I can branch. So on one of those branches, I will add 89.08, and on the other branch, I will subtract 89.08. So 64 plus 89.08 divided by negative 32 is negative 4.78 approximately, and I would verify that you're punching into your calculator correctly. Make sure that you're adding and then hit enter or equals, and then divided by negative 32. And then when you take 64 minus 89.08 and divided by negative 32, you get 0.78. So that gives us two answers. But how is it possible for the drop tower to drop down at two different times? Well, one of those answers doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's this one right here, negative 4.78. What does it mean to travel negative 4.78 seconds, because that's what we're solving for. We're solving for time. Well, we can't travel backwards in time, so this answer does not make any sense. So I'm going to ignore that answer, and the only real answer is the 0.78. And again, that was in seconds. So the tower drops in 0.78 seconds.